this though, but it'll certainly help AI scale better and reduce strain on the server, which is all very welcome. Now, time was then dedicated to the AI flight systems, with the team working to improve their air-to-ground combat, for example, when targets are moving planetside, such as the player, a turret, or a ground vehicle. It will be quite exciting when NPCs are probably capable of engaging with us while we are either planetside or vice versa. That's going to be very interesting. The team also began improving other mechanics.
There we go. And then I believe...
Like making jousting faster and more
Okay,
intense,
let's
close
turn it
distance
down
strafing and
a
direction
little
changes
bit.
more prevalent, and providing better tactic selections and transitions. Very strange they're sort of making jousting faster and more intense. It kind of feels like the opposite of what they were originally doing, where they're trying to reduce jousting and slow down space combat, so maybe they've changed their minds there. But the last bit could certainly be improved, making it easier to select and track targets. They can be very chaotic when you have a lot of targets at once and all you're seeing are red arrows all over your UI screen. Now, fleeing and chasing behaviors are being improved alongside formation interceptions. So there is clearly still a lot they want for NPCs to be able to do in flight, and all of it will just add so much more to every flight mission, well, any mission at all really, as one day NPCs will be able to fly, land and get out, get in, take off, quantum travel. So all of this stuff is going to be very important.
That's funny, is it actually hiding it?
Two, Fear and Kebab.
Welcome to Cuban.
Let's close it for now. It's fine. All right. summertime. Outrageous. Turn this frickin' AC down. Do my wrist warm-ups here. God, my wrist looks so fucked up. We roll with it though, we roll with punches here. Orson has a baller place. Might as well just. Oh, I don't actually even have enough. This is done, I was running the right way. This place is absolutely beautiful. Oh, I'm gonna miss the train. Hell yeah. No trains were missed. And no trains were missed. So what's up? Hell yeah. Ha ha, hell yeah. I'm gonna keep watching what I was watching.
Especially when bounty
Do you guys hear
hunting
anything else?
or for bounty hunting.
Yeah, here,
Or-
turn it up and try to hear it.
Now, for Navlinks and the Pathfinder, the team upgraded NPC traversing manual doors, fire control panels. Also, elevator and transit system improvements were made alongside NPCs using airlock systems. Now, it looks like they are making some significant progress in allowing NPCs to move freely in all environments using vehicles as well, just like we, the player, can. And that will be one major step in expanding the PvE content. Now, the devs also restructured melee data to be more modular, which says will allow them to more easily reuse the spatial limits in multiple aspects of NPC melee behaviors. Progress was also made on the creature toolkit, including updates to how triggerable actions are handled. And the juvenile Valakar was ported to use the new AI motive pattern, while updates were
I need to
made
give me one of
to
the monster
damage tracking
textures
and
now.
how worms submerge and emerge. Hopefully for 4.8, we will see some of this Valakar new movement, this new motive pattern, which is kind of how they will engage with us and swarm us and so forth. Now finally, for the AI team, bug fixes were made for NPC ships remaining in close proximity to the surface of central asteroids and failing to respond to player aggression, which certainly does happen from time to time. Now for the animation team, they progressed with an upcoming creature, adding new actions and attacks alongside improving existing data. But this could actually be the Sand Valakar, as there is more to be said about this soon, although I would certainly love to see more creatures. And we know Genesis, or the Planet Tech, is going to have a new AI management system to handle all of the creatures, but we know the new Apex Sand
Welcome,
Valakar
welcome.
is making its debut
Just getting started
sometime
here,
soon.
just
I'm
getting
assuming
warmed up as
4.9,
we're
but we haven't got confirmation.
recovering from
Now they're also
surgery.
working
My
on a
wrist here, so
super
I'm just
heavy
getting my
armor
wrist
set that
warm-ups.
carries a large
I'm never
full
gonna try
auto
to
weapon. Now this is not
fly
referring to the
fighter
Tiger suit.
around, like,
It is
so I
falling
need to
somewhere
listen to
between
a news video
heavy
right now.
armor and the
For
sort of
Star
mix
Citizen
that we have.
hobby.
This, I believe, has been confirmed, and hopefully we get a bit more information
Ooh,
about
let
it.
me
But it
update my
should be
description
a
to
nice new
AMA.
addition
The second I'm
to
done
help
with this video, I'll
expand the
do an AMA.
FPS combat arena. Now, facial animations were set for a 2-day shoot with the motion capture and narrative teams.
This
where
runs
they
so well.
captured new content for Record
We're in
Battaglia.
Orson. This is like one of the
Found
most
Alessi
like
with some new missions,
intensive
side
places to
missions,
run, and it's
and
running
also
pretty damn
two
well.
supporting characters being Isaac Kepler and Amir Lucas. So sounds very intriguing. Reco will have
Coffee's
these
on the
supporting
ground.
characters.
That's
Whenever I
not
see the
supposed to
name
happen.
Isaac, I always think of Dead
I
Space.
wanna-
But these will likely have some interesting
the
narratives between the three, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that unfolds and what missions we get from them. Now, new content was also captured for NPCs around Nyx, expanding the voice packs that players will hear in landing locations, and content was also closed out for 4.8, which includes 2 new characters
Oza?
and a new mission.
Give me the
The
Oza.
fact that they are
Give
speaking
me the
about
Oza.
landing locations and Nyx gets me very excited for Genesis. Now, for the character art team, they
New
spent
patch,
ages
the
developing
first
a
few
new
days.
armor set.
Here, I can go ahead and watch this video later. New patch, for me, up and down, but overall, very bad in the first few days, just objectively, like, not the worst it's ever been. I've been playing for quite a few years now, but really bad. Most things are just broken, and like only the veterans that knew how to work around things, like from patches past, were even playing. Most everybody that was like new and trying to learn the game just gave up. It was so broken. But we're on hot fix number 3 or 4 now, and it's running really stable. My FPS is higher than it's ever been. All my missions are working. I haven't had a mission not work. So now's the time to play. I think the free fly is active. Ooh, let me put my referral up on the screen. I forget to do that. Let me go and grab that from RSI. Boom, boom. I need to do my frickin' Odin paperwork. Before it's too late, we have a big ship sale. About to happen. Well, I mean, it's happening, but. Boom. Ooh, that's absolutely massive. It does not need to be that big. How much money do I got? Like, in-game money, I had 5 million, but I just went to this planet last night before I logged off and got a $5 million spaceship. Okay, there's my referral code if you're new and you want to check this out. But we're going to fly said $5 million spaceship right now. Let's go grab it. It's a new one. It's supposed to be really good, this patch.
Vehicle selected. Stand by. Your vehicle
Check it out. I got a flight stick. I need to get a second camera for streaming so I can actually pivot down and show my stuff. But you can see I got a flight stick here and a drink from earlier this morning. Alright, so it's over here for now. The grind in this game, I mean, it depends on what you want. If you want to pay for real money, the cheapest amount, which is like $45, and you don't want to spend any more money, the game only costs $45, and then you don't spend any other money, and say you want the biggest ship that has like a crew of 15, 20 people, that is an immense grind, going from having nothing, especially solo, to grind from that to a capital ship or something. It's not impossible, but if you want like the best one, then yeah, it's an immense grind. But like this ship right here, I grinded it out in like 3 hours. But then again, I'm fairly skilled. I've been playing a while. I know what to do. I know where to find it, and I have friends to help me from time to time. But you don't need, take it from somebody who started out with only the $45 kit and then moved into, you know, spending more and more slowly over time. You don't need to even do that. Like, just buy the starter kit, make friends, join an org, watch streams, watch content, like, learn. The biggest gap in this game is not what you pay for, it's what you know. There's money grinding, there's grinding for ships and gear and all this stuff. They have that in this game. And reputation, that's a grind. But the biggest grind in this game that is hidden from you, you don't even know you're grinding it, is your knowledge, bro. Like, you're only going to be as successful in this game as you know. Like, you just got to know things. You got to know how to work around bugs. I mean, that skill checked 80% of people who were trying to play in the first few days, because it was really bad, buggy and bad performance and stuff. But that being said, people were still grinding, people were still making millions, people were still playing the game even through all that. Just, it's really only the people that know what to do. Alrighty, now we leave Orson. But honestly, like, this game borrows tons from like every sci-fi game that's ever come before, and then it has a lot of its own thing going on too. But like, if you played games like Destiny or like World of Warcraft or something like that, like, or EVE Online, this game is certainly less grindy than those games, but that's primarily because, like, it's only ever slightly so, and it's primarily because this game is only like 40% complete. 45 maybe, now that we have crafting and stuff. Go ahead. Ugh, welcome. Alright, I think we're high enough now. We are. Let's, oh my goodness, this atmosphere is crazy. Get me out of here. Punch at you. And just a few laggy frames later, we're in space. Look at that. Magic. I might as well put this thing through its paces, and I know just the target. This guy. We're gonna make this fucker pay. Guy blew me up last time. Depends on what you want out of the game. You want to min-max everything? Well, is there a grind for you? But again, the grind to, you know, min-max everything is just knowledge, bro. If you don't know what to do, you're cooked. Oh, I almost hit that asteroid. professional kamikaze pilots, bro. I swear to God. Best kamikaze pilots in the verse. Freaking AI, man. I can't catch them because I just can't. I roll against them. Can I get you? Oh, there you are. Come on. Should kill him. Just freaking ripped it down his spine of the aircraft. And shield saved him. Oh my god, the shield is doing so much heavy lifting of his right now. I like this, but if I go fight a Perseus and it tickles it, I'm gonna be really upset.
Target destroyed.
Finally. Freaking finally. Well, that wasn't too bad. What about 5? How does it handle 5?
Quantum traffic engaged. Quantum travel complete. Quantum traffic engaged.
Where's this kid?
Quantum travel complete.
Forgive my weird noises, I think. My weird faces. Just hurting. Ooh.
Shields on.
Power better than I have it. Oh, there's 3. Honestly.
Contact.
Oh, hello.
Attack on shields.
I don't know how I feel about this. So am I on the better products now? I guess so.
Target destroyed.
I'm gonna try to put my helmet on so I can't see my HUD up there. That tells me I have 1900, 1911 ammo left.
Contact.
Hello.
Attack on shields. Target destroyed.
no gimbal on this. Not me out here trying to press gimbal mode on the non-gimbalable, on the literally giant fixed weapon on my screen. Where's the gimbal? No gimbal. We're gonna go buy another sick ass fighter here in a second. We're gonna go buy a Mirai Fury. Maybe two. I think it costs about 700,000. So we're gonna double check here. Fury. Yeah, 709,000. It's like 600,000. Guys are far away. Like extra leads. How is extra leading radius about? Big lead, big lead. Big lead and make low. Big red. Bada bing. Got him. Got quite a few shots left. This thing is staying really cool though. I wonder if the ion stays this cool. Got my coolers turned to minimum. Does this one have low light? Yes it does. That's cool. clip that. Good thing. I'm actually running low on ammo, so it's a good thing. Just like that, we go money go up. Money go flipping up. Alright, let's go do this dossier. It's on its personnel ship. Boom. Why does it just refuse to route me to fucking yellow? Someone pretty please explain this. Yes, bro, just let me go to yellow, bro. I don't know why it doesn't show up. 17 mm's away, bro. It's close enough. Oh, bro. Don't tell me this, I can't route to this side, bro. I can't. Don't tell me this, man. Boom. Way down there. This ought to work this time. This is the time. Yeah, this is the time. Oh, that's a fucking asteroid we're flying to. Oh. Do the old tried and true method of canceling our quantum. I'm good on it. 1 second, dude. Boom, jump over. Oh, and I hit it. Boom, jump over. Oh, whoa, I should climb that one. It's a little freaky. Please, game, work. I command you, game, work. That's what we need right now. We need a little bit of magic. A little bit of that Chris Roberts magic. Boom, bada bing, bada boom, and we're in. Yeah, sure. Yep. Oh, hello. Whoa. What is he doing? Hello? Hello? Are you okay? Are you possessed? Bye. Alright. Go. This looks like it's working. It's working. Hacking the mainframe. Hacking the mainframe. I think it's bugged, bro. Let's see if global will help. Not likely. Yo. Wait, am I muted in Discord? Yo, I'm streaming. Yo. What are you doing?
Woke up like 30 seconds ago, but I hopped in the shower.
That's been me like the last few days. Actual pro today, I've been PP.
I noticed pretty late yesterday, trying to go to bed early. Like 12-ish.
Trying to do this mission, but I can't.
Jane, you're early. You're on.
What's up?
Hey, don't worry. You know that song? So good.
Sniper rifle magazine.
Let's see. 5, 7.
Probably like we'll get a trailer for it like at the end of this year. And then it'll probably start coming out in like March or something next year.
Bro, that's like after summer.
Yeah, we probably won't get it until right before next summer, but they also could surprise us, bro. Like they pump those things out. It's like Fallout, bro. Like maybe like I would say like expect 1 year wait between.
Will May Cry season 2 on Netflix is pretty good, but Invincible is peak.
Yeah, peak Invincible, bro. Just wait, next season it's way better. It's even better, bro. Just wait, all like nothing bad has even happened yet, bro. That's all I'm gonna say. Nothing bad, not one bad thing has happened yet to Earth, to Mars.
I watched one spoiler video because it's the fucking caption. It was like the Adam and Eve thing, if you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I'm obsessed with
Roger, roger.
This is the Drake Ironclad Assault, the spicy variant of two flavors, with one delivering boxes and the other delivering destruction. It's the best example yet that we've gotten for a mobile forward operating base for org activities, capable of not just dropping tanks down in the front line, but holding its own small air wing that can even be repaired, refueled, and rearmed thanks to its onboard facilities. And all that can come out of a gigantic top-open hangar bay, making it perfect for beginning carrier operations for fledgling organizations who've not yet wanted to step up to something like an Idris or later a Kraken. The ship isn't exactly defenseless either, with 10 vertical launch systems featuring size 5 torpedoes capable of taking out a variety of size ships, and an armament of massive turrets bristling along its top, bottom, and sides. It is a force to be reckoned with if you want to take it directly into battle. So in this latest installation of Anarchtech Reviews, I'm going to be taking you through my impressions of both variants of the ship, the Assault and the Base, where I'll share where I feel it succeeds and where it falls short. Because as cool as this giant metal flying brick is, it's not without its faults. And if you like this kind of video and you think I deserve it along the way, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to show your support, as it really helps make the massive amount of time I have to spend making these all worth the effort. As we do with most of these reviews, we begin our tour from the exterior to see how its approach gives us an impression of the ship. And the thing that jumped out to me the most about first viewing this is just the sense of scale that its fine details give to you. Now, Drake's design language has always been known for being quite utilitarian, the form following the function, as it were. And I think one of the great things about that language is just how well it can sell that scale, because so many of these details, specifically on this design, are so identifiable in our day-to-day life. Take, for example, these top gantries over the hangar bay. Safety railings is something that we see in our day-to-day life, and so you understand intuitively how big this ship probably is because you can see that detailing on the top of the ship. Now let's look at something like the Carrack. How big do you think this ship is relative to the Ironclad? You couldn't be blamed for thinking that it's smaller when in reality, it's actually slightly bigger. That doesn't mean I don't like the design of the Carrack, I still love it. It just demonstrates how detailing can really help sell scale. But back to the impression of these details give, I think it helps sell a more brutal and honest feel to the ship. The honesty coming from how it just wears all of its mechanicals right on its skin, so you can see things like moving high-tension cables that pull the doors open and closed with latching and locking mechanisms, exposed wiring, ductwork, cowling, with a bare minimum of armor plating to cover up some of the more vulnerable sections. And this exposing of its very bulky mechanicals is also where it gets its brutal feeling, maybe even giving off the impression of aggression, which is a high selling point for those people who like using it for maybe less than legal reasons. Just looking at one of these ships, you'd think, that person might be a pirate, and you wouldn't be wrong. Now at this point it's worth talking about how there are two variants of the Ironclad available. The base paint of the Assault version is yellow, that's what we've been looking at up until now, but the base variant is this red and black variant. As you may have guessed, the Assault version is more focused on combat, whereas the base variant is more focused on industry. The main differences start with its armaments. On the Assault variant you get two remote top turrets, both featuring two size 3 weapons. This is actually shared between both variants. But the differences start at the front, where the Assault variant actually has 2 man turrets at the top, whereas the base variant only has 1. But the biggest differences start on the bottom of the Assault, where the forward section has 2 additional remote size 3 turrets, each featuring quad size 3 weapons, and the bottom turret goes from 2 size 5 weapons to 4 size 5 weapons, making it a far more imposing ship to come across if you get on its bottom side. Interestingly though, both variants do feature the vertical launch systems of size 5 torpedoes, sharing a set of 10 for both that can be reloaded only from the top. The base though does have some extra utility, with the forward left turret being replaced by a boom arm featuring a tractor beam to allow you to more easily load cargo on the front, and a rail-mounted tractor beam just on top of the main bay doors to allow you to more easily load cargo on and off. Both variants do though share an internal tractor beam to allow for internal loading and shuffling, so the Assault still does have some utility. However, I do want to say that I don't think that this ship does a very good job of making these tractor beams extra useful over just loading things by hand. For example, the top rail-mounted tractor beam doesn't allow you to focus on a box and hold on to it while you're moving around on the rail like you could with the Hermes, which made that ship actually a pleasure to load things on and off of. Maybe one of the better examples of how to make tractor beams for ships feel like they actually add some kind of additional benefit over just using hand-loading tractor beams. I think putting things on booms and rails is a start in the right direction, but I still feel they're not quite hitting the mark for utility. Another major difference between the two variants is that the base variant's ramp is actually slightly smaller due to a forward holding pen just above the ramp. In the base variant, you're not actually able to fit things like tanks or Centurions through the opening thanks to this slightly larger upper storage area. I suppose if you drove at a high enough speed, you might get past it, but getting it back out again would be a bit of a hassle. But we haven't even talked about the weirdest quirk about this ship. Well, both variants, in fact, because they share something called a command module, a completely separate small ship that docks with the main body of it and operates it. There's no bridge on board the main hull of the Ironclad, and so even though it can remain powered with its own power plant, it can't be flown without the command module. And the command module itself has its own quantum drive, its own shield system, even its own set of weapons for defending itself or even going on the offense for multi-vector assault mode if you're into obscure sci-fi Star Trek references. But in my mind, its real utility comes from its own tractor beam, which, because it's attached to this little external craft, you can use it to position it anywhere around the ship you're loading to make it much easier to load things on and off, including things you're not technically supposed to, like a Centurion onto the base variant. I definitely wouldn't suggest doing this under fire, but if you've got a bit of time and nobody's shooting at you, well, why not? Before moving on to the interior, though, I do want to talk about my favorite bits of the exterior of this ship. Starting with a massive array of rear engines, which feel oversized for the size of the ship, but then it's a very heavy ship that's meant to carry heavy cargo, so it kind of makes sense. But if nothing else, it just looks damned cool, and the sound of these things under full power is magnificent. And helping further sell the idea that this thing is carrying massive amounts of weight are the massive set of landing gear, which, when stood next to, really demonstrate the scale of this ship. Now, if you want to get on board the Ironclad, there are several ways to do so. On the side, you'll find two gantries on either side of the ship, featuring a drop-down ladder to give you access to a door that will bring you just to the back of the lower deck's cargo bay. As you've already seen, there is also a drop-down ramp on the front for both variants, with the Assault variant being slightly bigger, allowing for the loading of things like tanks, Centurions, ballistas, stuff that's generally taller, used for military operations. Technically, the command module itself is also an entrance point. If you're flying the command module up to the ship to dock with it, you can enter it through its airlock. There's also its own main airlock to connect to stations opposite of the command module on the right side or starboard side of the ship. Then, of course, you also have that massive top open bay if you're flying a ship on board. And then finally, there's even a top entrance/exit you can access if you're walking atop the gantries on top of the ship whilst in gravity. This can be used, unfortunately, in 0G, and that's because there's no gravity on board any of these gantryways, so whilst you're in space, you won't be able to walk around the exterior of the ship, sadly. This is something I really wish they would have done. But now let's finally have a tour of the interior, starting here at the loading ramp of the Assault variant. Entering through the ramp reveals the massive cargo bay, capable of holding again over 1,500 SCU in the base variant and around 1,300 in the Assault variant. And its wonderful attention to detail really comes out again on the interior, just like it did on the exterior. Keeping with the Drake philosophy, much of what you find is analog, like the lever to open and close the front ramp. Just on either side of it, you'll find two cargo lifts that will bring you up to either side's catwalk, or gantry as they're labeled here in the ship, although they're not technically load-bearing or structural here. We'll shortly go up to that second deck after we take a full look here at this cargo bay. Just next to each of the cargo pads, you'll also find a nice label here telling you how large the area is for holding SCU. It's a nice little touch which gives you an idea of how to prepare and organize your boxes as you load them on board. Traveling aft, though, brings us yet to another difference between the Assault and base variant. On the Assault variant, the rear pads meant for holding cargo are replaced by repair bays. These are where you're able to repair, rearm, and resupply ships or ground vehicles. So that means that the base variant is actually technically not capable of doing this, though both of them share parking bays in the rear for what are supposed to be areas for mules. Personally, I don't find the mules very useful, but if you wanted to use them, here's a place to park them or any other ground vehicle you might have. Just adjacent to that, though, you'll find another difference in the assault variant, where in the cargo bay, there are additional drop seats for people to stay down here whilst in transit. This gives them faster access to get on board the subcraft or ground vehicles you may have on board. There are even more locker slots for some weapons, and the entrance to that lower gantry to the side entrance/exit. The parking garage area also features a fabricator, although right now it doesn't work yet for crafting. I'm looking forward to this being a thing, and yet more storage and gun lockers. You'll find this is a theme on both variants of the ship. There are numerous weapon lockers throughout the ship, making the existence of an armory kind of redundant and perhaps overkill, but I suppose that's a very Drake thing to do. Just in the center of this rear backspace is also the access to the lower large size 5 turrets, and just beyond that further gives access to the vertical circulation of the ship, via either old-fashioned stairway or an elevator shaft that brings you through all decks of the ship, something that's not present on all ships in the game sadly, but one that I welcome as a demonstration of CIG's design maturity as they get better and better at laying out interior spaces. Whoa. It is worth saying that this is a brick, and bricks are a lot easier to lay out interiors for than say something with a lot of fancy curves. And just beyond that is the exit on the other side of the ship, that gantry entrance/exit to the ground that we talked about a little earlier. And this brings me to another really good part about this ship. I already talked about how that there's a lot of entrances and exits, but I think that this also shows yet again another maturity in design. Having too many bottlenecks can create a lot of issues, not just with getting people on and off quickly, but also with safety. It's also worth adding, though, that having multiple entries and exits gives you a lot of cool creative opportunities to make some really interesting conditions. I mean, how cool is this area, especially when there's gravity and you're in atmosphere looking down below at the planet? One thing I want to touch on, though, before moving on to other parts of the ship is the scale of it on its interior. Now, walking on to the inside, you probably thought that this is a big ship, just like the exterior makes it look really big thanks to that detailing. But when you put something like a starter ship Nomad in here, you'll realize it's not as big as it looks. Something that's actually a lot more clear when you're wearing a VR headset. It's weird to say that it simultaneously looks big, but also smaller than I imagined when I was looking at it just on my basic screen. If you get a VR headset, this is definitely one of the ships worth checking out. And by the way, if you guys were looking to get into VR, full disclosure, I'm sponsored by Pimax, so of course I'm going to plug their headsets, but it's definitely worth checking out no matter what you get. I'm currently checking out their new Dream Air, which is like a lighter, small version that uses lighthouses versus the inside-out tracking one that I already reviewed on my channel. But anyway, I've got a discount code MORPHO, which will give you $80 off, around that amount, and actually $150 free accessory package right now during this month, so just a heads up on that. But now I want to revisit that forward section we came in through, specifically that cargo lift, which is where the first issue I spotted really came into play. I call it a cargo lift because it seems big enough to put boxes on, and certainly in the base variant there's a forward section just above the ramp where you're able to store more illicit goods. Apparently it's some kind of shielded bay / pen for keeping, let's say, a living cargo. But once you get to the top of this gantry in both versions, the door is too small to fit any boxes through unless you're doing like a small handheld one, so it just seems strange to have such a large elevator for such an inaccessible entry point. I could concede the argument, though, that it's for all of the people who might be in these drop seats in the assault variant. Here we have access to those 4 top man turrets and additional 12 drop seats inside of just this hallway section. And just a little further beyond that and above the cargo ramp itself is the armory and even more drop seats. Here you'll be able to have a variety of weapons from extra large like rocket launchers, railguns, to standard weapons and rifles in the adjacent other slots. It's actually kind of crazy just how many people you can fit on board here for doing a ground assault, which is why I said it makes for an excellent forward operating base. Swapping over to the base variant, the same hallway lacks those drop seats we saw earlier, but instead has this monitor system with a bunch of buttons for opening and closing pens. These supposed locations for storing shielded cargo, or probably living cargo. I'm guessing this can also double as a prison ship if you really wanted to. It's a cool, if not kind of dark feature of the ship. Also, there's no toilet up in this section, so yeah, I think they're probably just going on the floor. Hopefully they have drains somewhere in this that I really like, though, is that there are windows in both variants that look out onto the cargo bay to give you some better situational awareness for what may be going on. However, overall, I feel like the location of both the armory and this storage area in the base variant feels strangely located and out of the way relative to the rest of the program. It feels like the whole forward section of the ship, this interior space, may have been better as a void with it being located elsewhere to give more space for a much larger ramp on both variants of the ship, which may have also made it easier to load things on and off from the front instead of the top. Back out onto the gantry-way, we'll find access here to some levers that will open the top. There are 4 in total here on this upper gantry, and some additional levers down below towards the rear of the cargo bay for opening the top. There are plenty of ways then to get this upper door open depending on where you are in the ship, which I think is a great design. It makes it much easier to get this thing open instead of having to run all the way up to the command deck or operations to get the thing ready to go for loading and unloading cargo. I also want to say the sound of this thing opening and closing is incredible. The sound designers for this ship knocked it out of the park. Another very cool thing about this upper gantry-way is just the view it offers to whatever's going on down below. Whether you're stacking up boxes to the top or loading in vehicles, or even doing some fleet operations like what we were doing here, it's a pretty epic scene to behold. Better yet, if you happen to be in atmosphere or landed on the ground for loading and unloading operations, there's even an access point to the roof that I talked about earlier, found here through this upper gantry. It's only on one side of the ship, strangely enough, but it is enough that they added this into the ship's design. Practically speaking, it also gives you better access to the vertical launch system where you can reload the torpedoes if you've stored any extras on board, but also to be able to repair any part of the ship that may have been damaged in your last combat engagement. Swapping out weapons, repairing turrets, and so on and so forth. Watching stuff getting loaded is probably my favorite from this vantage point. And if you explore enough up here, you'll also find an Easter egg, or you'll find the initials of all of the designers responsible for the ship. Pretty cool addition. But there's yet much more to see on board the Ironclad, so we return to below deck and travel even further aft on this gantry, which will bring us to the second deck, also known as engineering. Immediately inside the airlock reveals a non-orthogonal hallway. In other words, it's a hallway that doesn't run the length or width of the ship, but instead at an angle. An interesting design choice that I think makes the interior feel a little bit more dynamic. Exploring these hallways will also reveal additional ways to traverse decks, like this ladder system which can be used in case of emergency. My favorite is definitely yet another window that looks out onto the cargo bay from this deck, giving you yet again further situational awareness for anything that may be going on. I love that they're doing more of this now, and I invite them to continue to do it for future ships. This hallway also reveals that labeling has too been improved aboard this ship versus earlier ones that CIG has created. Down this hallway, directly across from that entry we just came through, you'll find a stairway that brings us back down to the cargo hold. This is the alternative way of getting up and down decks I talked about earlier instead of using the elevator. This deck also features the exit entry point for the docking ring that allows you to connect to stations, although the functionality of that currently isn't working in this version of Star Citizen. I think probably due in part to the fact that the command module technically is also a docking ship, so they probably have not figured out how to have multiple docking ports work simultaneously. Not surprised, seems kind of complicated, but it's a very cool docking collar that reminds me very much of the Expanse, with places for suits and weapons, and even a place to sit down to change your clothes back when you get back on board. And I also love how the floor and ceiling are treated in this space. Rather than just having a flat floor and ceiling directly connected on level to that airlock door, everything is slightly changed to give some visual contrast and separation between what's circulation and what's programmed for storing and changing into your different suits. But my absolute favorite bit about it, and maybe what makes this airlock my favorite in the entire game, are the analog switches to operate the doors and the presence of a massive articulating blast door whose animation is reminiscent of vault doors from the Fallout series. It just has a nice sound and look to it that feels bulky and armored as it should be. Back out onto the hallway though, we'll find ourselves in front of an engineering bay if we move most aft. And here is where we're going to find the primary engine and components of this magnificent, massive vessel. And while the hallway may have given you bare-bone vibes with exposed mechanicals everywhere, the engineering section appropriately takes that up a notch. with a view out onto the exposed main engine of the ship, which makes this space one of the most epic on board. With my VR headset on, I swear I started sweating in this space. It looks just so dang hot, and I'm not talking just about the heat. And of course, as is appropriate, the engineering console is located just on this railing overlooking this massive engine. What better place could there be other than on the bridge for such a terminal? At that point, the bulge in my spacesuit subsided just enough for me to fit back out into the main hallway through the tight corridor, where I think it's appropriate to stop and appreciate the work that they did on these corridors. I think they did a good job of using the kit that they had to make them feel unique at every turn, yet still share a similar design language, exposing ducting, wiring, structural elements, and virtually every other dangerous thing you can imagine, allowing safety inspectors to safely say if there were any children on board, they're probably all dead by now. But of course that's a joke, because why would there ever be a safety inspector coming to inspect a Drake ship? Drake buyers enjoy pain, and that's why they buy them. Here though, on the left or port side of Deck 2, we find the entryway to the other side of the gantry, the elevator lift we saw on Deck 1, and yet another stairway that brings us up to Deck 3, labeled Operations for a very cool room that we're about to visit. Arriving just at the top of the landing on Deck 3 puts us just across from that ladder we saw below on Deck 2, the alternate way to get up and traverse decks. Although there aren't ladders traversing every single deck on board, it's still nice to have at least a couple here and there, though, for some more secret ways to get across what could in fact be bottlenecks in a boarding situation. The aftmost section of this deck, though, has the habitation area of the ship, which makes me wonder why this deck wasn't named Habitation instead of Operations, though I suppose Operations probably hierarchically is a little more important. As we've seen from the rest of the ship, the space is also rather bare bones, with few creature comforts to offer. A small, very uncomfortable looking couch is towards the entrance facing a TV or view screen of some kind, and a set of doors lead to at least somewhat private seeming cabins for occupants, although the cabins themselves don't offer very much in the way of comfort. A cargo net hangs precariously above each bunk, just waiting to drop and smother the unsuspecting crew member who was foolish enough to sign on to a Drake crew. What more would you expect from a manufacturer that often doesn't design escape pods? More seriously though, I am quite disappointed that the space lacks any kind of personal reading light like we saw in other Drake ships in the lineup. Seems like a missed opportunity, and it could have been just maybe a little bit cozier while still retaining its Drake hard edges. One of the things though that I felt was a little bit of a missed opportunity was the head arrangement towards the rear of the ship. It feels a little bit too nice for a Drake ship like this to have private bathrooms with doors available for its occupants. I feel like a large communal bathroom with very little privacy would have felt a lot more appropriate. Accidentally dropping the soap here seems to have very little meaning. But speaking from a pure standpoint of efficiency, it certainly feels like this would be a time waster with a large crew on board. But then what am I talking about? Drake users probably don't even take showers, and probably don't feel shafted by the lack of a communal shower, to use a poorly worded and timed euphemism. Now though, I think it's time we visit the namesake of this deck, the Operations Center. Now, because this ship relies on the command module to actually fly it, what would normally probably be considered a bridge is in fact just called Operations because it can't be flown from here. Instead, this is where operators will be operating things like turrets and tractor beams in the day-to-day operations of the ship. And it offers one of the best views on board of the exterior, including out onto that cargo bay for any operations that may be taking place. And these two forward operating seats also operate those main doors. And you could be forgiven for thinking that this was the bridge of the ship. It's situated in a way where it really looks like it should control the whole thing, but it doesn't, and that's why I think CIG elected to create a rather interesting design element in the space. A massive structural girder that goes directly through the center, occupying the space that in a hierarchy would traditionally have the captain's seat or pilot's seat. In my eyes then, it's an overt design statement about this not being a bridge, it's just an operations room. But while this decision is clever, I do think it presents issues with at least the base variant, where much of the space is left empty and may have been better occupied with perhaps a new piece of program unique to this.
Just do it, bro. Just become super mega chud.
I'm gonna look at the screen and I'm gonna blush. And I'm not gonna know what to say. I'll be like, yeah, this is my favorite character.
Just do it, bro. You're a chud. It's okay. No, bro. You're gonna go to jail if you keep saying those words. That's what they said to me. Punishable by jail.
I can't believe I didn't get VARC.
I can. You didn't grind at all leading up to then, and you didn't have money to spend, so you didn't get them.
No,
That's how it works.
bro. I got like before him. I got like Sitlali, Llama.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you knew he was coming. You could have saved, and then you just straight up didn't play for the months leading up to his release. So you didn't have anything basically when he started.
I 7 remake.
You know, bro, it's not unbeatable. You would have guaranteed got him if you actually played and saved. You would have.
You would have had more than enough.
I did play, didn't save. I had.
Yeah, I know. That's it. You have to, though. It's easy. You're just like, oh, this one, yeah, this one will come back. I'm waiting for the one.
I hit 80 pity, and then I got a cheat sheet.
That's what happens, bro. I lost like my last 3 50-50s. Nikki's won her last 7 50-50s, bro. 7 in a row. I don't think she got, no, maybe she, no, I don't think she did. I don't think she got Rocco. I don't bloody think so, right?
Risley is my favorite character that I have. I think Jean's the most beautiful anime girl for me. But Llama and I hate them. I love playing them together, especially because Risley doesn't really have a sword. Swords are cool. I wish, dude, I pray we could have like a horde mode zombies, you know?
It might happen.
Like a survival, like Warframe has missions like that, just call it survival. Just throw you into an arena, see how long you can go. You know those like defense missions in Abyss? Maybe something like that co-op, endless. I pray to God something like that happens, and I hope the game never dies. After we discover all the regions, start putting Final Fantasy characters, just random anime characters. Give me Cloud Strife, give me Dante Devil May Cry, dude. I think Shu's ult is actually just like something Dante's brother Virgil does all the time. Brain switch. I want Cloud Strife and Dante, but they could add like solo level guy. They could add like Kirito, bro. They could add Black Clover guys.
Black Joker, guys.
They could add 7 Deadly Sins guys. That'd be so cool.
7 Skibbity Sins, huh?
Can we talk about not safe for work 18 and up topics?
Like what, bro?
It's a yes or no question.
Oh, bro. Like what? What do you want to talk about so bad, bro?
I just want to think out loud about addiction and retention.
Bro, like, what's there to say? Like, you just either do it or you don't do it, but
I'm so down bad, bro. Can't get away.
yeah, I mean, just stop doing it. If it makes you feel bad, then don't do it. I mean, that's simple. But like, if you do feel really bad and really guilty about it, I mean, ask why. Yeah, like is it,
exacerbating a lack of discipline in some other way, like. So it's like,
I'll tell you this right now, people who are successful still masturbate. That's not something that, like, you make $1 million and you're just like, yeah, I don't jerk off anymore. Like, maybe you don't goon your brains out to porn when you're living in the trailer instead of getting a job. It's like,
Dude, if I was a millionaire, I'm never not laying on my back, bro.
that's hilarious. That should go in the song. I'm just saying, it's not like you just become successful and suddenly those things, like, you're not a human anymore. Maybe you stop becoming a human.
I do free therapy, ChatGPT every day It's weird how Nicole and Duran they play so similarly. Their ults more or less do the same thing. Off the pyro damage.
Yeah, they do that a lot. Like, a character just comes out and it's like the same as another character.
Pyro, released back to back and made them to support the same DPS market. Oh, new off-field pyro damage. Okay, I got him. Oh, new off-field pyro damage. Cool. I really kinda like love and adore this game that I don't use that great against Shooter Jack. I like it. I like these characters. It's rise the bar if I need some good characters to attack. One of these days I'm gonna build
Totally,
Kai
you should slow down soon. Forgot about the landing gear shit too.
I have number one and number two best cryo DPS in the game.
You're just making things up, bro. You're just making it up.
Number one cryo DPS.
You're not even playing Genshin anymore, but
I'm on right now, yeah.
you're probably not even playing that.
Playing Jean, Furina, Kuki, Llama, Hyper Bloom. Fun, but it's not great.
Forget that stress. Just relax.
Just sick of seeing Durn.
Welcome to the ASOC Vehicle Retrieval System. Your vehicle has been moved to Vehicle
few size 2s, some size 9s. See, this thing's just got quite the silhouette. I'm doing good, I'm doing good. Happy Friday. Friday. So what's this thing's power? Your coolers are pretty choked. So this thing could benefit from a better power plant, but it's got stealth components, I believe, that's why. Yeah, only 13 power pips is not a lot. I suppose that everything else on like minimal, radar matched, weapons matched. Question is, lasers or ballistics? I think deadbolts would be perfect on this thing. Let's see what other fighters I can buy. The Fury MX.
God.
Wrist is killing me. My flippy wrist. Wow, the racing Fury cost the most. Interesting. Oh, thanks for the follow, man. We're getting ever so close to 420. That's what I like to see. Magic number. Alright. Gotta start doing a giveaway here soon.
Yeah, dude, you have to scam giveaways. That's how Mr. Beast did it.
Skim giveaways.
Scam giveaways.
Scam giveaway. So it's like,
You'd like, welcome.
you won this, and then you don't win anything. So I gotta go. You won this absolute awesome. And then they didn't win anything. That's the joke. Got him.
Literally works. Literally how Mr.
But like,
Beast
what if I did a giveaway and actually gave the thing I said I was giving away? What if I did that instead?
wouldn't be as viral because then people wouldn't complain about it. They would
Ooh,
left
see, now that's a no, but then they would complain about it because it's a Star Citizen thing. So no, someone's gonna complain about it. You don't have to worry about that part. I'll post something and people will be like, "Yeah, this game's a scam." They just give you like free engagement instantly. It does, the post does way better. The second there's a one comment on your video, it's gonna get like 100 more views. One comment equals another 100 views usually. This keeps going up.
Yeah, that's how One Piece videos used to be.
What's a One Piece? What's One Piece? Well, like that thing that's like the anime Star Citizen. That's cool.
It's like I think
Right.
all of us fans are sick of the slow pacing.
Yeah, I thought it was the best thing ever, bro. But no, you sound right.
What's
It says that's true. It's even Kaido thinks so. I think. That's where Kaido's at now.
How many times do I gotta watch Sanji get a nosebleed? Is it really still?
Yes. It's like Tom and Jerry.
Bro got married. I was hoping to stop.
You can't keep getting away with it.
Bro says an invincible fighter.
Huh? Sorry. One more time? What?
Street Fighter Invincible the show.
Street
They got
Fighter?
Robot as a character. Yep, they got Conquest as a character. They got
Oh no, you're talking about the new Invincible game?
yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
the lime electric. I got the lime ghost flavor. Tastes like key lime pie. Just lime cheesecake. I'll like sip it, and then like I get this aftertaste in my mouth. Like I just had some cheesecake. It's crazy.
Kitty. 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 Ship showed up. Let's go. Miracles do happen. Do a little bee happen. Do a little bit of bee happen. Oh yeah. We're back in business on the big T. Mark, are you gonna go see the Backrooms movie?
Looks, probably, but I'm like negative excitement.
Take a bitch with you.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Take a fine young woman. Don't take one of the hosting motherfuckers.
When I was in like middle school, bitches were crying and begging me to date them, and I was like laughing at them, and I was like, bitch, I want to go play Black Ops 2 in Minecraft. Leave me alone.
Yeah, no, you're just a fat chud in the trailer. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. You're not too far gone. You're fine.
I gotta fast all day today, and I gotta start eating super healthy, and I gotta get on semen retention.
No, just die at like 45. Just don't eat healthy. Smoke, drink.
I'll bust a nut, and I'll be like, I need to eat a Subway sandwich and a Domino's pizza to recover.
How is that? Why do you need to recover?
You make a good point. I just feel insecure out in public if I'm not recovered. I feel like I can't talk to women.
That sounds like your problem. Stop jerking off then. If you're really guilty. But
I can't. I can't.
just know there are people that are watching like furry yiffing stuff and they have no shame and they don't care. Like,
I've been having a really hard time, but this morning I gotta win.
they're among us.
This morning I gotta win. I gotta keep it rolling.
Stop scrolling.
Snowball build. Yeah, bro. I think the veil's getting lifted. I think it's gonna be impossible to hide who has your allegiance soon.
Right.
If not already.
We're living through a spiritual war right now. Thank you, bro.
The hotel fucker in the backseat.
And you ban him. There's no rapping in my server. Why so there's no rapping policy? Who'd you say that?
Get in a haystack. On with the horses inside my head.
See, that's a good song.
In this video, I've traveled to the city of Saigon to see.
I need some music. Whoa. Oh, I need to go pull up. What are you doing? Can you stop eating my carpet? Kitty, come here. Juniper.
Abby, can you hear Boogie?
Can I hear the boogie? No. Why?
Listen to Boogie.
When I said I need music, I really, really didn't mean your music, bro. No offense.
You haven't even heard this one.
But like, how did I know you just played your own music, bro? Instead of like something that Gavin might actually want to listen to. It's cool. Okay, bro.
Get it, let's go.
Looking out purple, dominators. Yeah. Merlin is what I want. 52 Merlin. Now where do I... P52 Merlin. Where do I find it? Hardcore 200. Deadbolts. What kind of ballistics? Again, the broad swords could go hard. Maybe I grab a couple extra. Yeah, let's do that. Let's carry some things back. P52, I think I have the 72 already. Grab, we'll actually definitely teleport that over here right now.
Welcome to the ASOC vehicle retrieval system.
No, I own a 52 Merlin already. Is that really what's attributed to my account? Maybe I won't ever trade that then. That's freaking awesome. Let's go deliver
Your
those.
vehicle has been moved to our storage facility.
Sure, load out.
Replace
I don't think these have flight plates here. That'd be sick if we get a freaking 52 Merlin flight plate. Let's see. No. Yeah. This is what I have already.
Your belongings belong to you. Keep a careful watch of all personal items.
Grab
Okay,
this big chunk
that
of
was
it.
great.
Really crazy.
I hope you have a
This
wonderful
one has
day.
no missiles. The 52 has some missiles, right? No. None of them have missiles. Cinet 2 is pretty sweet. You know, let's buy 8 deadbolts. What do I have on it for? 200,000. Should we can get away with.
The station.
Pitbull. But Pitbull would be awesome right now. But we're gonna go to Omega Pro. Let's go. Make this slow. Do some spending. Want a little bit of a shopping spree on this beautiful day. You're coming on, I think, this way, Plaza. Mega Pro. And people have been littering everywhere. Typical. We'll go to Mega Pro last. Let's go Center Mass first. I think Center Mass is a better bet. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Open sesame. Alrighty. Over here, we got. I want to buy some of these great swords. Wrong sword. Let's buy like. Well, that's a lot. Let's buy 8 long swords. And then great swords. We get 4 for the Fury. And we're out of money. What else does the Fury need? That's the one I'm. That and the Merlin. No, Mirai. Guardian. Oh, not Guardian. Mirai. Fury. And 2, 4, 6, 8. Dominance. Dominate 8. 8 dominance. Or dominating. Let's go. Alright, to the other side of Plaza. To Omega Pro. park this place. Do some tractor beaming as well. Get some music ready for that.
Welcome to the ASOP vehicle retrieval system. Your vehicle has been moved to our storage facility. Welcome to the ASOP vehicle retrieval system.
double drop kick back.